Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and I don't want to alarm anyone or come off condescending, but I think I might be evolving to a higher state of evolution and consciousness. So I've been fasting on and off for, I don't know, like the last 2 months. I mean, I started with a hard 2-week fast. I lost 16 pounds, and then I just started eating lightly. The big thing is I was able to maintain my weight loss. Everyone, when I told them I was fasting, they were like, "Oh, it's all gonna snap back as soon as you stop." It didn't. Because I just got used to not eating, and so when I did eat, it just felt horrifying. It just felt like whatever it feels like to be a turkey getting stuffed for Thanksgiving. It's just the worst feeling. So I really started to hate eating. And then right now I'm basically doing snake diet, which is you just eat every couple days. And I really don't like eating. I just had a meal, a full meal with sides and everything. And it's just the most disgusting feeling. When you couple this together with me hating to sleep and me also being really sick of going to the bathroom, I feel like I'm ready to just become an energy being. I used to not like Star Trek, so I'd always make fun of it when my dad was watching it. Whenever they had one of those, non-corporeal energy beings that the Enterprise would encounter, I would always call them mind monsters. I was like, oh, mind monsters again? I think I might be turning into one of them. But I still like movies. And I still like soda. So I'm still human. And comics. So anyway, when I started, this first just started as a backup channel for my comics review channel, which is now called Comics Matter with your boy Zach. And then I kind of didn't use it for 8 months, and then I came back and I started doing movie and TV reviews. At first I was just going to do superhero stuff, and then I expanded that to superhero and sci-fi. And then yesterday I'm doing Unicorn Store, and now I'm doing Rambo 3. And now it's literally just whatever I see on Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu when I get it, or CBS All Access, which I already have. So anyway, I actually, I'm a vet of Afghanistan, and I'm also writing one book that's set in Afghanistan and one book that's set in Iraq, but I keep using stuff that happened in Afghanistan. I had 2 combat deployments. One was in the Marines in Iraq. The other one was with the Army in Afghanistan. And they were both very, very different. One was in the city, one was in the country. Just a lot of differences between the 2 of them. Different types of wars, different everything. So Rambo 3 is set almost entirely in Afghanistan. And I really, really like this movie. I didn't see it for the first time until I think last year, maybe the year before. I grew up in the 80s, and I didn't like Sylvester Stallone. It's kind of hard to explain, if you didn't grow up in the 80s, what Stallone was and kind of how he was looked at. But he was not only a big star, but he was also an intense target of ridicule, while also being very, very politicized. I mean, there would be thesis papers at legitimate, universities written about the semiotics of the Rambo trilogy. So there was always kind of a lot of baggage along with him. And I wasn't good at sports when I was a kid. I'm still not, but eventually I became, athletic. So I kind of classified Stallone, since he did boxing and then he did Over the Top. I said he's a sports, guy. So I wasn't that into him, and he just got mercilessly. I would say the way they just constantly try to mock Trump, and nobody can ever have a calm discussion of him. It always has to oh my God, have the most extreme reaction. That's what happened to Stallone basically throughout his whole career, until finally when he did the Expendables, people finally started calming down about him. Jeez, people just used to flip out. They either thought he was the greatest thing ever, and they based their whole life around him. There was a guy when I was in the Marines, and he literally based his whole life on Stallone movies, and he knew every single part of every single one, Rocky and Rambo and all of them. But I was never really into them. I didn't get into Stallone until he made Assassins and Judge Dredd, and I love both of those movies. So then I was kind of into him, and he had like a 90s renaissance. But again, he was doing Cliffhanger. That's a sport. Why do you keep doing sports? I'm not good at sports. So then I kind of faded out, and then his career kind of went fallow again. But then he did Expendables, which I love because I love G.I. Joe. So Expendables is G.I. Joe. It's G.I. Joe. Then I started going backwards in his catalog. Now, obviously, you grow up in the 80s, even just from little clip shows and parodies and on the TV on a Saturday afternoon, you're going to get a lot of Stallone knowledge just secondhand. So I had seen parts of First Blood. I had seen parts of Rambo Part 2. What the hell is it called? Rambo First Blood Part 2. And then I don't think I ever saw Rambo 3, because if you think Stallone had it, well, he was a millionaire, but bad. Things were intense and crazy for him in the mid-'80s. By 1989, it was like at this insane fever pitch, and they used to talk about Rambo 3 like it was some kind of crime against humanity. It had a big budget, which I think was like $60 million or something like that, but they were flipping out. Like, all the news magazines, I used to read Premiere Magazine and all those movie magazines, it was literally like he was a criminal. Like he was trafficking in like slaves or child labor or something like that. He was just making a movie with his shirt off. Calm down. So anyway, Rambo 3 kind of, it had a really high budget, and it did, I think it did okay. Especially overseas. It's very, very, very much made for the overseas market. By that I mean you barely even need to do translation of it. There's very little dialogue, and the dialogue that is there just kind of doesn't matter. So I've since gone back and watched all 4 of the Rambo movies: First Blood, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3, and Rambo. And now they're making a new one. I forget the name of it. But weirdly enough, sidebar, my graphic novel Iron Sights was actually based on me doing like fanfic of what would have happened after the end of Rambo, the 4th Rambo movie, when he goes back home. It ended up changing a lot, but that's how it started. So anyway, Rambo 3 is set, I'm guessing the same amount of time since in the world versus when Rambo 2 was released, like 4 years. And he's in Thailand, Indonesia. He's doing stick fighting, and he's probably in the best shape of his entire career. He is basically a He-Man action figure. He's like 3.4% body fat. Yes, I looked it up. And his shoulders are insane. I actually, because I'm getting back in shape, and my plan, which my friends have been poo-pooing, is so for several years I thought I was 10 pounds overweight, and then I just lost 22 pounds, and I still got like 15 pounds to go. So I go, oh geez, I've been like 30 pounds overweight since like 2010. So my plan was, since it turns out I'm pretty good at fasting, I was just going to lose a lot of weight, get down really, really lean, and then start lifting weights again, and then putting on muscle. And my buddy, he's in good shape, he's just always rolling his eyes when I say that plan. But that was what Stallone did. Oh, by the way, I looked up his height. Almost every website, excuse me, says he's 5'10". I don't believe that. And if he is, I need to apologize, because he always looks like a tiny guy. I've always heard he's a tiny guy. Is he really 5'10"? Has anyone ever gotten an autograph from him? Is he really 5'10"? I don't really believe it. Maybe 5'10" in shoes. What was I saying? So he got really, really lean, and then he put on muscles, and he looks insane. He looks like borderline fake. Rambo the character is doing stick fighting and wherever to get money for a Buddhist temple that he lives at, and he does basically manual labor. And the nice thing about this, obviously, he was very, very troubled in First Blood, and then he was kind of as crazy as Rambo 2 is. He's kind of mentally in a better place. But then he's still very kind of like heartbroken at the end. And by the third one, he's gotten himself to a pretty good place. He's at the monastery, and he just says, he goes, I like this place. I'm calm. I'm useful. I don't got any problems. Like, this is a good place. So Colonel Troutman shows up, and I forget why he showed up. Usually, I know later the State Department guy kind of tells Rambo that Troutman got kidnapped. I think he just wanted help, like, just go with me, which I don't know. He was in the military. Why didn't he just? He's in a unit. Like, you're never not in a unit. Why? And they have IAs. When I was in the Army, one of my jobs for a few months was assigning IAs, individual augmentees. It's, we need two, what was it called? Interrogators to go to Balad Air Base, whatever, Camp Victory, something like that. And so we, scour all our lists, see who's deployed right now, who just got back, who's just about to go. Back 2006, 2007, it was hard to find someone who wasn't deployed, just got back, or was just about to go. So it was a little tricky. We had to do a lot of wheeling and dealing. I forget why. Anyway, Rambo turns him down. Troutman goes there, immediately gets captured. Like, immediately. And there's this Soviet colonel, I think, and he's got this really, really boss, awesome castle on the edge of a cliff in Afghanistan. So he's interrogating Troutman because Troutman's helping the locals. So Rambo goes over to Afghanistan, gets some help from the State Department, maybe the CIA, basically some introductions. He meets a local freedom fighter, and they got this guy. I forgot to memorize his name. He's kind of like the main contact for Rambo, and this guy is a really, really good actor. And I'm not sure if he's from Afghanistan or Pakistan, but I was in Afghanistan, and you get to know the locals. You work with the local police, the local soldiers, good, bad, everything in between. You're meeting the local chieftains, the local elders. You're just meeting, and he comes across in a very good way, the way that the people I liked in Afghanistan came across. They're kind of like savvy, sly, a little funny. They're interested, but they're also kind of into their own culture. They're kind of basically, the way I would describe it is, in Western cultures, we're always trying to change. Like, I'm in my mid-40s. America has fundamentally changed like twice in my life. It's pretty crazy. But back then, they basically look at it as, every part of life is kind of intricately woven in with the others. So even though they know something is kind of BS, they'll be like, well, but that's how it's been for 2,000 years. And they just kind of roll with it. So anyway, Rambo ends up getting introduced to the Mujahideen freedom fighters, which I know that sounds ironic because of 9/11, the war in Afghanistan for the last 18 years. But in the 1980s, Mujahideen were supported by the U.S. Some of their leaders literally met with Ronald Reagan in the in the Oval Office. Some racists have been like, here's Reagan meeting with the Taliban. Well, number one, the Taliban didn't exist. Number two, not every freedom fighter is Taliban. Like, dial it back. It's actually really racist. So he ends up meeting along with the freedom fighters. There's this little kid. The kid actually isn't that bad. The kid is a good actor, and he's not as annoying as you think he's going to be. So then, at this point, now here's the deal. So this movie's only like 90 minutes long. At this point, besides a little stick fight scene, which was okay, and then a real short scene with Troutman and his guys getting shot up and him getting captured, there's been almost no action up until like 40 minutes into a 90-minute movie. And then, oh my gosh. So, I don't know why, I'm not really into video games. I don't know why I clicked on something and now YouTube is recommending to me those old, I think it was Don Bluth. They had was it Dragon Slayer and Space Ace? think it was called Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer, I remember as a kid because it was so frustrating. It would be like 50 cents to $1, and that game was freaking impossible. It was animated, and then there'd just be a little flash on the screen, and you were supposed to press some button. But man, your freaking window of opportunity was like in freaking microseconds. And the kids I saw that I never saw anyone that actually finished the thing. But the kids that I knew who got good at it were, number one, rich kids. So they had basically unlimited quarters. Number two, they were just basically memorizing when the cues were. And I think the cues changed from game to game, but they knew when they were coming exactly. So my point is that I watched this video where it showed what a winning game would be on Dragon Slayer. And the funny thing is, it's only like 11 minutes of animation. Because they would do all these like, are you ready? Let's go. And that would like stall. Plus, I think I always died like literally like 1 minute into playing that video game. It was so freaking hard. But anyway, it made me think of the last 50 minutes of Rambo. So after having a pretty good start, and they have a good scene where there's a meeting of tribal elders, and they explain what the Soviets have done to the women and children. There's a really good scene where there's a strafing run with a Russian attack copter, and then there's an older like a chieftain, and he says it's another really good actor, and he points to all the devastation, and he says, in war there's supposed to be honor. Tell me, where is the honor here? And Rambo, he's a troubled guy, but he's an honorable soldier, so he's kind of like, all right, I'm down for this cause. So kind of lost my so once they set it up really well. It's like good acting. I will never ever agree with anyone who ever says Stallone is anything other than a fantastic actor, especially in the expressiveness of his face. You literally see where he's kind of like and then you see when he's fully on board. Now luckily for the freedom fighters, and unluckily for the Russians, when he finally gets him on board, it's just when they need him. And oh boy, so related to the Dragon Slayer thing, after not much action for the first 40 minutes, for the next 45 minutes, and there's 7 minutes of credits, it is basically 80% action. And I mean, it's also this kind of action where I will say it flat out, this poster right here where they have him with a little shrunken head, and to make his shoulders look even wider. And then there's another one where he's just kind of like standing on his, with his hands on his hips, all cocky. That's not really who, he is in this character. He's very stealthy. You see him get worried all the time. He's very conscious, of the danger of things. He's very worried about the people he's protecting. Like, it's good. That being said, it's effectively standing over the shoulder of your buddy who's played a video game, he's beat it before, and he's just playing it through again. So Rambo goes through a lot of stuff, but it's probably the easiest. He takes on the most enemies he's ever taken on, and with probably the easiest time. He does get one, kind of like a shrapnel injury in his side, and there's a really awesome scene where he at one time he's telling like the middle-aged local and the kid, hey, take off, I'm going to go save the day. And then he asks for his rifle, and you think he's going to take it from the middle-aged guy, and you're like, that's kind of messed up, you're taking his rifle from him. He just takes one round. And then later he goes into a cave, he uses his knife to pull the projectile out of the cartridge. He pours the gunpowder into his wound, he ignites it, and it burns out all the infection and cauterizes the wound. That was awesome. There's also, surprisingly, especially in these cave scenes, some really beautiful cinematography. I'm kind of shocked. So then, again, and he just starts laying waste to everyone, and he shoots AK-47s and PKMs. He always shoots them from the hip like he's playing bass guitar, but it's awesome. I mean, one of the things that has kind of been lost is the idea of movies as catharsis. When you take catharsis out of society, you increase neurosis. Catharsis is, the second Rambo movie. America was in Vietnam. It was very controversial. There were a lot of deaths. There was a lot of PIWs. It was not considered to be, a standard victory as in, World War II was. So there was kind of like a psychic pain in the country over it. So Rambo goes in a kind of pretty cartoony movie and he rescues the he rescues the POWs. He helps some locals. He shoots the Russians who helped the Viet Cong during the war. And it's kind of like, oh, we didn't win the whole war, but we won this. We had a lot of tensions with the Russians. This was before Glasnost, Perestroika. It was really shortly before it, but we had this Cold War. It was very tense. I mean, I was a kid. We used to have drills about, there's a nuclear attack. Hide under your wooden desk. What the? You should just tell everyone, just go stand on the roof so you just die instantly. You don't want to have radiation sickness and die 3 weeks later. But it was kind of a catharsis of the end of the Cold War. So it's nice seeing this, fit guy. One of the, obviously, Stallone is not really fighting people, but when you see the shape he got himself into, it is very, very admirable, and it's kind of soldier-like. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say. Tell me if you don't want to see videos like this. This is kind of a stretch, but whatever. I guess this is just any movie that I watch. It might be, what is it, Highwayman with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. That's in my watch list. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Probably be Star Trek Discovery. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll have another video up tomorrow. Bye.